What's that, Bertram? The eagle has landed! Adventure time! Yesterday, I went to go see Mockingjay with some friends. But that's not the story I'm going to tell you. Yesterday, on the way to go see Mockingjay with some friends, I got lost. And I don't mean took a few wrong turns lost, I mean out in the middle of a snow-covered field surrounded by snow-covered cows lost. Now, at this point, a couple of thoughts went through my head. Why are there cows in the winter? Why are they covered in snow? Are they cold? Do they need some sweaters? Maybe I should knit them some sweaters. Why did I decide to live in the Northeast? How did I even get from my dorm to the middle of a field? Are we really alone in the universe? That sort of thing. But that brings me to what I'm going to talk about today. While I was out there in the wilds of Massachusetts, I began to ponder my very existence. And not just my own existence, I began to ponder something that's been on my mind ever since I read the Hunger Games series. Began to ponder our very society. Well, more specifically, the idea of utopia in our society. So today I'm going to talk to you about what a utopia is and how something so idealistic and wonderful can quickly turn into a living nightmare. As is the nature of this conversation, I'm going to put out a general content warning for assault, murder, and racist violence. The word utopia was first used way back in 1516 by Sir Thomas More to stand for a perfect ideal society. For some people, this might mean a world where everything's free, and maybe a world where the gender binary is non-existent. For others, it can mean the end to nonconformity. In one of my classes, each person wrote down on the board what their idea of utopia would be. The problem was, one person's ideal world is another person's nightmare. After all, it's not called a utopia for nothing. Take, for example, the Hunger Games series. Katniss Everdeen lives in a dystopia where children are sacrificed as tributes, where work conditions are so poor that people are regularly killed on the job, where there's barely enough food to go around, let alone medicine. To everyone in the districts, this is living hell. But ask Effie Trinket, ask any of the young families living in the capital, and they'd claim that they're living in a utopia. They have food, water, power, glamour, beauty. What else could you ask for? Of course, as we readers find out, the residents of the capital are blissfully unaware of the horrid conditions in the rest of Panem. It's like Plato's Allegory of the Cave. For those of you not familiar, Plato tells the story of a group of prisoners who have inhabited a cave since birth. They're chained so that they're forced to gaze at the wall and can't look around them. Behind them, there's a fire burning, and between the fire and prisoners, there's a high-up walkway where people are carrying objects. Now, the people who are walking are high enough that they don't actually cast shadows, but the objects they're carrying cast shadows, which the prisoners can see. The people walking are also making sounds, but because the prisoners can't see them, they falsely perceive that the sounds are made by the shadows. If a person were somehow to be able to escape the cave, they'd be instantly blinded by the sun. Eventually they'd get used to the sun, but if they attempted to go back into the cave to share their discovery with the other prisoners, the prisoners would probably scorn them. After all, the prisoners have no reason to believe the sun exists, and considering that the prisoner who escaped was hurt in the process, they'd consider it an unworthy endeavor. In terms of the Matrix, these are the people who take the blue pill. They choose to stay in the dark. On the other hand, in the Hunger Games, people like Cressida, Plutarch Heavensbee, and eventually Effie Trinket, people who all grew up in the capital thinking that everything was alright and that nothing was wrong, all chose the red pill. They chose the hard path, the path that doesn't end in glitter and sparkles. They chose the path that reveals the truth, even if the price is death, and that's tough. Although we don't live in the capital, we have our very own version of the red and blue pills. If you're born into privilege, it's not very hard to isolate yourself from the world around you. I know plenty of people who I went to high school with who are blissfully unaware of the rate of women who are sexually abused each day, or just how many queer kids end up in the streets each month, or how many people of color are killed by police each year. They can live in a world where they have food and water and shelter and nothing else matters because they don't have to witness the problems that are going on. And clearly our fiction and narratives are self-aware of all this. Sci-fi's turned from the original idealistic Star Trek series, which was all about progress and moving forward and pushing boundaries, to stories of pessimistic dystopian worlds where an oppressive government rules with an iron fist. And maybe it's only just reflecting the world we live in, but I think if we want to make a change for the better, we need to stop seeing these stories as works of fiction. We need to look at the children being murdered in the Hunger Games and realize that it mirrors the senseless murder of children that's happening in our own countries, in Mexico, in the US, in Europe, at this very moment. At the end of the day, I can't see true utopia being a possible thing. One person's sin is another person's pleasure. One person will see conformity as the solution, and the other will see it as the problem itself. Honestly, I think we're still living in the cave, and we won't really discover any type of true utopia until we question our own reality, until we question the norms around us. Think critically, check your privilege, look at what your government is really doing. I'm not saying that reality we're living in isn't real, but I'm saying that your reality isn't the only reality. When I was younger, I didn't even recognize that there were problems with society because I was benefiting from privilege. It can be hard to be a red pill kind of person, but when times seem dark and broken and unachievable, remember that what drew you out in the first place was light. There's a light at the end of every tunnel and the mouth of every cave. The darkness is oppressive, but the light will set you free. So with that, I'll leave you to philosophize everything I've said. If you haven't read the Hunger Games series, please do. I've also included a really great list of dystopian young literature down in the doobly-doo below, so feel free to check those out as well. Adios, fellow nerds, stay warm, and until next time, don't forget to be awesome. The Eagle is out.